most people are pretty amenable.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's not what the news wants you to think, ever.
no, of course not, because they want to keep people divided between the red and the blue, and
Right.
and everything in between. You know, they want to keep you fighting with your neighbor, keep you arguing about this and arguing about that, and so they can continue to get away with what they're getting away with.
Right.
Which is what that segues into our next things, because while all this stuff is happening, while people are claiming freaking, oh, Palestine this, Palestine that, oh, Ukraine that, they're quietly told Zelensky over there in Ukraine, hey, bro, you may want to start suing for peace, because
Yeah, you ain't gonna win.
you ain't gonna win. And while that's happening, that's winding down. This other stuff in Gaza is happening, and people in the streets supporting insane causes.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how you can justify supporting that.
And I've said it here before. I mean, you support that reign of terror. The bottom of my heart, you can go fuck yourself. I cannot condone that stuff. I've seen the videos, the raw, unedited Hamas freaking videos. Did you guys know that there were CBS reporters who were embedded with the assaulting elements of Hamas?
They never got released.
Right, because they got fired as soon as they were made. They were like, oh, these guys are with CBS and what? Oh, foreign correspondents. You know,
BBC, CBS.
Because journalism is it's one of those professions that it could be murked out. Kind of like we're doing a little bit of journalism right here, right now. None of us have formal education in the matter. Right. But we know in the basis of it, we do research, try to be as truthful as possible, and just put out the information as unbiased as we can make it. Well, all over the world, there are these people that are good with a camera, and they have contacts, and they network really well, and they have the gift of gab and all these other things. And when you put them all together, they end up in situations they can support their families with just those personality traits. They endear themselves. They speak the language. They're local. They know the area. So, boom, they have something to sell, which is the scoop. Because you're not going to send John Smith from Arkansas into the middle of freaking some market in nowhere to make contact with Hamas to embed himself with them. Yeah. That's not going to happen. They're going to lop his head off. They've done in the past, see fucking Richard Pearl or whatever. It's happened. It's happened in the past. So they're going to hire these local nationals that can bring the scoop. So
I remember when
they're affiliated.
CNN camera guys, the CNN people that were there holding the cameras and videotaping everything we were doing. This is in Fallujah. All those guys, they were Iraqis wearing CNN stuff. They weren't anybody from the U.S. or from England or from anywhere else. They were locals.
Yeah, but in the meantime, all this stuff is happening, all this other stuff, and all these people are fighting in the red and the blue and the blah, blah, blah. And the government is slowly making us pay, and getting away with nonsense. So apparently there are still Somali refugee camps in El Paso.
Really? I didn't know that.
They were open back in 2011. I remember that. But Somalis in detention centers, but they weren't exclusively. But they got migrant camps set up. CBP's got migrant camps all over El Paso. They got they're housing about 2,500 immigrants a pop, and they're separating them by their races, basically, So, and it's not Mexicans.
Yeah.
So that's happening. Another thing is that they go like, oh well, Israel is using mass graves to dispose of the Palestinian bodies and all the cadavers. I'm like, yeah, Well, you can't leave them in the hot sun,
Right.
to get packed away by the carrion. This isn't a battle happening in 1200 friggin'
Right.
after Christ. That's not how this goes. You gotta bury him. So yeah, for health reasons and all kinds of reasons. But people forget that Andrew Cuomo had mass graves in an island in New York for COVID.
Not giving out medical advice.
Not giving out medical advice. Don't bury your friends in a plotter's.
Yeah.
Which is what he did with COVID victims and a lot of family members that couldn't be bedside with their loved ones while they passed, and they weren't allowed to gather for a funeral or a viewing. They put their bodies in a plotter's field. Yeah. You know what I mean? This you don't have to venture very far, is what I'm getting at, to see some of the same atrocities committed all over the world. You don't have to go very far.
Right.
We've done a lot of this stuff to ourselves.
Yeah. Concentration camps for the Japanese Americans during World War II.
You don't have to go very far.
Or what, detainment camps? I don't remember.
We had entire units, frontline combat units, that were just strictly out of the children of those Japanese and Asians interned, because they couldn't tell the difference, by the way. So they couldn't tell the difference between the Japanese, the Koreans, and the Chinese, and the Vietnamese. They didn't know who was who. Now, I had this thing with my old lady a little bit ago about that. I was like, well, they all got the same haircut, She's like, oh no, they don't, But I mean, so back then it was even worse. They had no exposure to this culture, so they had no. They couldn't identify their facial features or their names. They couldn't really tell who was who. They bunched them all up. Well, the sons and daughters of these people, sons, ended up in operational maneuver units fighting in the war. I
mean, there's a couple experimental battalions.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Hispanics is the same thing. I mean, so you don't have to go very far. And this stuff was happening until not too long ago. So some of the last segregated units operated as close as world in Korea.
Right.
So, so you want to talk about this other stuff and races and this and that and the third and inequality and all this other crap. I was like, you ain't got to go very far.
Sure.
But another thing you got to maintain is that these causes that people are advocating, for the most part, you got to look within yourself and see if you even fit in that society you're advocating for. Because you can be completely opposed to a genocide, but if you can't travel to that place in peacetime and coexist, you probably shouldn't be backing them up for anything.
Right.
Like, if they would kill you on sight just for being who you are.
But even saying that, and you're right, you shouldn't go anywhere near them. You shouldn't be advocating.
You shouldn't be advocating for them at all.